Wow, there we go. Yes,
Hey,
good, good. Hey, hi. How are you doing?
greetings from Pittsburgh.
Hello from Pittsburgh. Hello from Denmark. Hello from Scandinavian architecture, as we were talking about. Slanted walls, hate them. Yes. Hello, Eric Trow. Trow.
Trow.
Yes,
Trow.
I
Yep.
should have asked before we started.
That's okay.
Hey, our names almost rhyme.
Yes.
Yes, Eric Trow, director of Black Dahlia, a game that I'm desperately trying to bring back into the spotlight because it seems like everyone's forgotten about it. Um, everyone loves Ripper. Everyone does
Yeah.
retrospective videos on Ripper, probably because it runs in DOS and has Christopher Walken chewing the scenery. But
Sure.
Black Dahlia is sort of a forgotten little gem, if you ask me. So
Yeah. Yeah, and a lot went into that too. So it's one of the things that I'm most proud of. It was just such a cool opportunity to be able to be a part of that, and I agree. I mean, it was so well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was what, yeah. I mean, there was a lot, let's be honest, there was a lot of FMV slop coming out in the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
And Black Dahlia seemed to have like a slightly higher pedigree, I would say. Bit of an understatement there. Well, let's start at the beginning, shall we?
Okay, we shall. Okay.
Yes. What was your career like up until BD? Because I went to your IMDb page and it says your only directorial credit was Black Dahlia. Now, I know you did commercials before BD, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was that like?
I actually quite literally grew up in the business of production. My dad was a writer, producer, and director, as well as being an actor, a voice talent, really a Renaissance guy. And so, I mean, I grew up around the production studios, around the sets. And from the time I was a little kid, by the time I became a teenager, I was a production assistant on a lot of his projects, hung around on a weird little factoid about my dad. I know this isn't about my dad, but it's the background is my dad was part of the Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood show. So if you're familiar at all with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Google Bob Trow and you'll come up with some stuff there.
Oh, cool.
But anyway, I also became a voice talent at a really young age, and then became a professional voice talent later on. Started my career on the ad agency side of things as a creative, as a writer and a producer. Then I did so much work in the production studio at a place called PMI, Production Masters in Pittsburgh, which was the largest production facility. They gave me the opportunity to come over and work there as a producer and director, really developed my directing chops there. And I mean, we did hundreds of commercials, long format videos. That's everything from training stuff to actually entertainment things for sales meetings and everything else. And one of the things that I became kind of known for was being able to work well with actors, probably because I'd grown up as an actor, as a voice talent, knew what it was like on the other side. I appreciate actors. And the other thing that happened while I was at PMI was it was a full production and post-production facility with graphics, one of the first doing 3D animation work. So I learned along the way as I was directing how to do a lot of things I worked with blue screen regularly. I did a lot with compositing. I wasn't doing the actual compositing, but I'd be working with the guys that do that. And so I knew how to shoot for that, how to envision how all of these things come together. That's really where I think my chops came in terms of why they even considered me for that.
But, what time frame are we talking?
When I started into that stuff, I mean, I was in the agency and production world through, God, it sounds like forever ago. I might as well say the 1800s.
Yes.
But it was yeah. So it was, I'd say mid 80s through the early 2000s.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So you were there like at the birth of proper digital chroma keying and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And we did, even with some of the stuff that my dad had done, he was doing the rudimentary stuff that TV stations were able to do in their production facility. I mean, it was really cheesy, but it was experimentation. That was my first kind of dip into that. But yeah, it's always been fascinating to me.
Yeah. Well, how did you end up at Take-Two then?
Well, that came through. I don't know if the name Shelley Robinson has come up at all, but Shelley was really, to me, kind of the glue on all of this. She was, I don't know if her title was production manager. It was probably something more than that. But Shelley is one of the best producers I have ever worked with. And I'd worked with her for a number of years on projects through PMI. And then, by the way, after PMI, I went on. By the time Dahlia came around, I was an independent contractor with my own creative services company working as a director. And I had worked with Shelley on some complex projects. But she is the one who recommended me to the folks at Take-Two, who were her client. And I remember sitting down and interviewing with them and talking about what it is that they wanted to do. And frankly, at that time, I was thinking, man, I'm not a gamer. I don't know video. That's the one aspect of it I didn't really understand. And I was surprised, quite frankly, that they picked me to do it. But it was, I think, again, based on that mix of experience. And plus, they had their own technical experts there that were really going to carry me through from that standpoint. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, that checks off the next question. Had you worked in video games before? I'm taking the answer is no.
Nope. And and honestly, really had not done a lot of gameplay. Still haven't done a ton. In fact, I got to thank you so much for putting all of this footage together, because I only made it to a certain point in Black Dahlia, and even with some help, I was still getting hung up on some of the puzzles. And so it's so cool to see how this strings together now. It's only been 30 years or something like that, but it's so great to see it all together.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that seems to be a running thread for people who have played the game, myself included, is that it is one of the most punishingly difficult adventure games. It's not just you; it's everyone. And I'm going to speak to Steve Glastead, lead designer, tomorrow, and like everyone from Patrick Freeman, the writer, to Darren Elliker, everyone who's played the game has been like, this pulls teeth. so I'm interested to see what because you got
to ask him why he wanted to be so cruel. That's the question.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna kid glove it, but yeah, absolutely. Because it's fascinating to me that you've got this massive production for an FMV game. You've got 8 CDs worth of footage, and you would think you'd ease the player into it and let them experience as much as possible, but nope.
Here. Yeah. Yeah. Sink or swim for sure.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So when you landed at Take-Two and they said Black Dahlia is what we're going to shoot, did you have a look at any of their previous project, like they did Ripper, for instance? And
I looked at Ripper more than anything, Ripper, because that was the closest to what we were doing. So that was a tremendous help. And quite frankly, that's also got me even more excited about it. This kind of a project to me was just, I was eating it up. I thought it was just such a really cool thing to work on. But yeah, looking at that was a great introduction to it for me.
Yeah, so you kind of got a sense of this is what the movie sequences would do, and they will lead into this sort of gameplay stuff. So when you got the script, what were your initial impressions of characters and story and all of the Norse gods and magic and 1940s and stuff like that? What was your impression?
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground. I mean, I think one of the first things was the sheer volume of it, because that's a longer script than a feature film would be, because of all the different options and everything else. And that's one of the things in looking at it. And we can spend some time talking about this too. For me as a director, and again, the whole gameplay part of it, what I think is interesting is this to me it's a really cool story, and thinking of it as a movie. And in this particular case, it's the person who is engaging in this, if the gamer, I guess, but the fact that somebody has the option. First of all, they get to play the character. They are Pearson, and they have the opportunity to make decisions. And those can be good decisions or bad decisions or whatever. But to be able to put all that together and have it as an interactive story that kind of, oh, by the way, has a lot of gameplay in it too. But to me, it was really about, you're part of this story, this unfolding saga. And
Yeah.
man, you're right. It covers a lot of ground. Yeah.
It does for more than you would expect an FMV to do, because it's not just some FMV games that take up a lot of space are actually quite short. One that springs to mind is Phantasmagoria by Sierra Online, which famously came on 7 CDs. You got them beat by 1 CD. But that game is quite short, in fact, because you basically just blaze through the CDs. It's a lot of clicking around and a lot of movie sequences. But damn, the story in Black Dahlia, you can sort of tell where the 8 CD budget went.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's no doubt about that. That's when you think about how much was involved in this, in every aspect of the production. This was not an inexpensive production. It was not. It was certainly complex, and I'm happy to say. And now, even so, it was still a tight budget, and there was a lot of pressure from a timeline standpoint. We had to compress things as much as we could, but they really didn't compromise on the acting. It's like, if we didn't get a performance right, we did it until we got it. It wasn't a matter of saying, "Oh yeah, that's good enough." First take stuff, and then then move on to the next thing. There was a lot of emphasis and appreciation for all of the live acting part of it.
Absolutely. So, would you say the size of the script was intimidating in a way?
Yeah. That was the longest thing that I'd certainly ever done. But to tell you the truth, before I panicked, I immediately thought of Darren and wondered how in the world he, as Pearson, was going to do this. And frankly, if there was anything that really had me concerned, fortunately, I'd worked with Darren before. But if there's anything that had me concerned, is I said, if this guy doesn't pull this off, we're screwed. Because if you had someone who wasn't as prepared it's a thank God that Darren was cast in this, because man, he didn't miss a beat. Every time, every day for 8 solid weeks, he came in, and he was in every scene, I think. And he was so prepared every time. And I frankly don't know how he did it, but man, that saved the day, because that would have been just a real bitch otherwise.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. A lot of people have very nice things to say about Darren and his preparedness and his tenacity. So yeah, and talking to him himself, pro. Yeah, I get that sense as well. Were you involved in the casting process? You say you'd worked with Darren before.
Yeah, I had. Well, as far as the question of whether I was involved in that, there were so many different characters. I wasn't involved in all of that. Those selections were made. As I recall, I did have Darren, I think, was brought back because he was such a key character, obviously, or the key character. And so I do, as I recall, I was involved in, I think, a follow-up discussion with him and so forth, just to make sure everybody was comfortable. And part of it, I think, was making sure he was comfortable as well. But like I said, he and I had worked on a number of things together, where I hired him and directed him, or frankly, he and I did a lot of voice things together because we were both actors, and just always had. In fact, what's kind of odd is I had cast Darren. I was trying to figure out the timing of this coming into this conversation with you. Is I had done a piece that I had written and directed that was. It was a dry topic, so we wrapped it in kind of a Sam Spade sort of a combination of like an old, gumshoe type of thing, but with a little overlay of like a Zucker and Zucker Naked Gun kind of a feel to it, just to make the stuff entertaining. And he played that role. And I'm thinking, here we go into Dahlia and say, well, I know he can do this, and he can certainly do some of the stuff tongue in cheek, which I think he did a brilliant job in moments of Black Dahlia too, where he was able to pull some of that off. So I think there was a lot of confidence going into it. By the way, one of the things that comes to mind too, when we were talking about all the different things that this covers, I can't help but think of Patrick Freeman. He's probably still on some federal watch list based on all of the research he had to do on the internet with all his web searches for torso killing Nazis, the occult, you name it. So, I often wondered about that.
Oh yeah, he's and the cool part was when we wrapped our interview, he was like, "Oh, I can't wait to show my family this interview." I'm like, "Oh yeah, let's talk about the days when Daddy was researching Nazis." And,
exactly.
Oh, good times.
Too funny.
Oh yeah, so and Darren can pull off a lot. I mean, all the actors in Black Dahlia are.
Yes.
a bit above your regular bread and butter FMV actors.
Yeah. Yeah,
but he has some really good comedic chops as well. I mean, most of Black Dahlia, he's got this sort of wild-eyed, I can't believe this is happening thing going on. But there are some scenes like in the post office in the mailroom when he's having this back and forth
scene. I love that scene.
It's just Darren being exasperated for 10 minutes straight.
Well, and one of the things I think works really well with that too, and he's a thinking actor, and I don't mean to make this all about Darren Elliker, but of course the whole thing is kind of about him.
Yeah, but we'll get to the other ones. Don't worry.
Good, because there were some great actors to work with. But in that scene, when he put that together with that delivery, what I felt was you as a game player, if you put you're frustrated with trying to get through all of this stuff too. So it's probably the payoff or the reaction that someone playing this game would have too. So I thought it was really relatable.
That is. And also, interestingly, when the game first shipped, that area of the game was bugged out. It was bugged up the ass. So even though you did all the steps right, you could never get the package back. Take-Two had to put out a patch that fixed that. So,
yep.
I mean, sort of unlucky that the bit that actually fucked up the worst was the part where you're the most exasperated anyway. So.
Yeah.
All right,
man.
So going back to the genesis, I have a whole timeline. So once you get into the script and you're the director, did you storyboard the scenes? Were you the storyboard artist?
Yes, to a great extent. What I had to do, let me put it this way: what I needed to do was to block out all of the shots, all of the angles and everything to be able to make a scene work. So that I did every night at the end of the production day, which they were long days. And at the end of the production day, every night I was looking at the next day's scripts and blocking all of that out. And we did do them, day by day versus it's not like I looked at all the script up front and then did all of that. We had to do it as we went, and it depended on what we were shooting. But yeah, that was, and that whole, the whole experience, even with the background that I have in doing blue screen, when you're living in blue screen for 8 solid weeks, it gets to be pretty strange. And where it got to be really odd is, well, it's very easy to get, we used to talk about getting lost in the blue. You were working with a cyclorama that was, a curved wall that went up to the back, curved corners, and you had blue to the sides back to a point. Well, if you think about it, one of the challenges then is, well, one, you have no real visual reference. We had set pieces that were made to, okay, there's a desk. What size is the desk in the CGI? So we have to figure that out. And we had a guy named Dan Jabrowski who headed up a lot of the construction, the carpentry. So we had all of these cubes everywhere of every size for every piece of furniture that was interacted with. And all of them painted blue. But where it got to be strange and a bit challenging was there's so much, it's all dialogue for the most part, or a lot of it is. So where you're going to place a camera and you're shooting one direction, you're shooting film style. So you're shooting over Pearson's shoulder, for instance, at Marilla. And then you've got to do the reverse. Well, you don't take the camera like you normally would and say, okay, you guys stay where you are. We're going to put the camera back the other way. Because then you're just shooting back into all of the crew and everybody with all the equipment and nothing painted blue. So you had to rotate the scene. And that also meant, think about it, for Ed Lettieri and the other lighting guys, that also meant if it's lit from the side, and you think of Merlot's office, for instance, with the slashes, the light effects, they went to the trouble to do that. I thought that was great. So through the window blinds, you have some slashes of light. And you have a distinct light source. As soon as you turn all of that around, you have to relight and make sure that it's going to come from the same direction. And yet you still have no reference whatsoever. And you're going, I think this is right. So it got to the point where I started to make little, I made cardboard, a mini set out of cardboard, just, little boxes, little things, even just to represent.
Like a little diorama thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then you would just take that and turn it to say, okay, this is what we have to create now. And it's just, I can't emphasize enough how strange it was to just be in a sea of blue where you have no reference points whatsoever, so that took some getting used to.
Oh yeah, I remember Darren was. I swear we will get to other actors, but Darren was telling me at one point he's supposed to leap through the portal, and there's a little ramp that he's supposed to jump off of.
Yeah.
But you sort of, not just for the director, but for the actors as well, you sort of go blind in the sea of blue. So when he jumped off, he slammed his head into the wall behind him. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And everything had to stop because the wall had to be repainted because he was covered in.
That was a literal setback, where we had to, that's right. And it was just, I think what he would say is he probably just lost, you don't have any depth. Mm-hmm. It's just, he was leaping into something that unfortunately had a barrier there. And I think, again, you had the cyclorama, so that's a curved floor also. So even if he, he might have even hit that and it may have even pressed him forward even more. But that one required that's about the only thing I can think of where there was really a matter of anything that was done that required, okay, well, we're shut down for a while until and you'd think you just paint it blue, but that blue goes on very dark, then it has to dry and get to the right color. Or otherwise stuff doesn't key. And plus he had to recover anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad, because I actually had a question about were there any other similar like mishaps on the blue screen set, but
there were things that were, I think it was just more a matter of, there was a fair amount of physical stuff done, and we were careful about that, but you'd have somebody tripping over something or whatever, little things like that, but nothing major.
No, because I'm thinking like there are some like people falling over, people stumbling over things, and how do you have like stuff like crash pads on a blue screen set? I've always wondered, because when you land on a crash pad, obviously it bends a little. So I don't know, how do you cope with that?
That's a good question. Some of it was anytime we could, it would be out of frame. If they were falling. For instance, one of the things that was a difficult scene, somewhat challenging scene was. I'm trying to think where it was. It might have been in the California setting or something like that. But the Pearson's trying to open a window, and the floor gives way, and he has to fall down through and land. That was one that we were concerned about, and it's shooting down at him falling, so it revealed the floor. So I'm trying to think how we did do that. Whether we used like a gym. What we may have done is like a gymnastics mat, and it might have had like foam core painted over top of it or something. I can't quite remember how we did that. And he may have actually had a little bit of padding for knees and things, but that I don't recall specifically how we did that. But that was a scene that actually concerned me a little bit in terms of just from a safety standpoint and how that was going to pull off.
Well, and also that shot, I recall it because you're shooting top down and he slams into the floor. But not only is it a tricky shot because you have to light it from the top and all that stuff, but it's also one of the shots. This is a lead into another question.
Okay, cool.
It's that shot not only is complicated, but it's also one of the many shots in the game movie where the camera zooms and pans and does stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of that going on, which is tricky as hell in blue screen.
Especially before, we didn't have motion control cameras and all that sort of stuff either. So, I've been thinking that through a little bit because again, it's been a minute since we did this, and there've been a lot of other projects. So what I recall is when we deliberately were going to do a mechanical zoom, a physical zoom at the time of production, we had dots that were in the scene that then in post, all the guys doing the compositing and everything would be able to match that. And it was usually lined up with some piece of furniture or some physical part that they could track in the scene when they were putting the background in. It created more work for them. There's no question about that. I mean, that's the heroics is really on that end. So some of that was done there. And I do believe, even in looking at it, I think some of the stuff that's more straight, subtle zooms what was common to do then was to do a digital zoom in post. When you have everything together, you can do like 10 to 15% before it starts to degrade. Yeah. So some of that I think was probably done in post that way. But I remember all the dots and things like that we had to do. So those guys could do that.
Yeah, the zooms I can see, and also, I mean, there's a slight saving grace in that it's going to get compressed to shit on a CD-ROM, and
Yeah.
has black lines all over it and stuff like that. But yeah, the panning, especially some of the shots they're panning, and especially in the train sequence when he pulls the emergency
Yep.
cord and everything just shakes. That must not have been very fun for the compositors or for you.
Well, it was a lot easier for me. I mean, it was, and fortunately, and you understand too. In fact, one of those pictures that I sent you was, you'll see that me with all the guys with the equipment and all that stuff. So the Take Two guys were right there. I was always working hand in hand with them, and so it was a decision we made collectively to say, okay, how do we want to handle this? Do we want to do this much here in the studio? And what are you guys comfortable with on the back end and all that sort of thing? And that's how we would get to those. But I guarantee you, those guys were probably even pulling their hair out to some degree, trying to get some of those things done. But man, they make a difference. Like the train, that scene in the train is a great example of, had that just been static, it just wouldn't have had the same power.
Exactly, and some of them. I mean, the first time I played it, when he just walks into his office, looks at his desk and climbs onto his desk and pulls that thing out. There's a lot of you got to pan up, you got to pan down, and I was like, this. There was another FMV game called the Pandora Directive, which is one of my favorite. Another one of those that actually got it right, and they tried to do all this, panning and zooming, and every time they did, the character's feet would just sort of float. They couldn't quite
not quite connected.
Yeah. And I cannot recall seeing anything in Black Dahlia where it doesn't, where it looks like his feet are sort of floating above the ground. So there's been a lot of precision going into those shots.
Yeah, I think, as far as the scenes where I can see some of the, well, okay, that's surely composited, it was a matter of, and I mean, trying to get, we didn't have complete reference CGI for at the time when we were shooting these scenes. So we had something, and we were able to see and align things where they belonged and all that. So we always had reference on a monitor. But in terms of all the final lighting and everything else, so the stuff that I saw later on that I went, I wish we could have maybe pulled back the lighting a little bit so that it felt a little more in the scene. But those are pretty minor things, especially like when you get into McGinty's and stuff like that, where there's some stuff with the kind of the smokiness and everything that's a little bit of a fake in there. But still, it works. You had mentioned it's really funny that you mentioned the scene where he gets up on his desk and goes up to the light fixture. That was a surprisingly challenging shot. For a number of reasons.
Down below.
It's that down, the upward angle, which wasn't blue over top. So we had to develop something that was a canopy of chroma key blue. And just even the physical aspects of all of that. And that's what's interesting too, is going through it. It's been fun, like I said, since you put that footage together, to go back through that and see, like, even, just the angle of certain things when you realize you really didn't have much reference. I think about, for instance, even going to Finster's office, and you're walking through the munitions plant or whatever that is, and the couple guys that are giving directions, and there's a guy on a catwalk and stuff like that, is having to get all of those angles right just for these, momentary scenes. And you feel like, you probably could have just shown the outside of the building and then gone right into his office. But I love the fact that we did that. But, there's the low angle of the two guys pointing up to where his office is. And again, they don't seem like anything, but it does take a bit to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Where there's the shootout in the warehouse as well, when you lob the glass bottle and this guy's up on the catwalk. First of all, he's obscured by a bunch of pipes, which I imagine were not there. So that's a bunch of stuff painted blue in front of him. And also he's on the catwalk.
Exactly.
It's a low angle thing. And he has to fall over and hit the ground as well. Good times.
There was definitely some fun stuff that way. But you think about all those things that were obstacles that had to be created, and sometimes I wish there were more of the production stills so that you could see, that wall is nothing more than a 4x8 sheet of foam core that's painted blue, but it's an obstacle for them to go around. And, and even with walking through, I just think of the torch scenes, for instance, which we did early on. And it's just, all of this stuff had to be, it seems like it'd be pretty straightforward, but they were all had to be placed and, and figure out just where he was going. And a lot of imagination for the actors. There's no question about that.
Oh, yeah. And you did actually answer another question I had about how much previs of the scenes that you had before you got in. So basically you had a flat render of the scene. Could you were the angles sort of predetermined by you earlier so the artist could render them, or could you actually move the 3D camera around and say, okay, let's try this angle, let's try this angle?
Back then, it was everything had to be rendered, so it wasn't a matter of you were just going to take it and just say, hey, let's look at that 3D view, like we can on Amazon now. It's just amazing how simple all that stuff is. So it would be a matter of, again, I'm going by my recollection here, is they had the environment. Then it was a matter of saying, okay, here's how this shot's going to line up. Now let's render give me a reference frame using your model of that room. And that's how we would build it. But that wouldn't have had all the detail and everything else. It would have been just very basic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so it's not like you had like the wireframe and you could say, okay, now a little more to the side. So basically they come to you with a pre-render and say, okay, this is the backdrop. Now we got to make it work.
Yeah, and this might be nice to ask the other guys too, who were actually doing that part of it. And Steve may have a better idea of this too. But I believe it was a matter of us saying, hey, look, hey guys, here's where I'm thinking of putting this camera right now based on this. Can you, to your point on that wireframe, can you give me a frame from this angle? And they could render that pretty quickly right there in the studio. Because it wasn't high res of any kind.
Yeah, because that was another thing, like 3D rendering at that time, even though we are talking late 90s, it could take a minute or two.
Oh yeah. Yeah. When I was working at PMI, when we were doing 3D animations, it could take, when you're doing final rendering, we used to have to babysit it. We would take turns staying overnight to make sure the thing didn't crap out, because it could take 30 minutes to do a frame.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was just, it's nuts how long things took back then, but you kind of take it for granted now.
I'm the sort of sucker who, when DVDs were still a good thing, I'd watch all the featurettes and the director's commentary and all that. And I watched the Tron documentary
of
the light cycle thing, which took, what was it, like 4 days to render a single frame of that light cycle.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy.
Okay, so how long was the shoot? You said earlier, but I forget.
That's okay. The shoot was 8 weeks total. It was 6 weeks in Pittsburgh and 2 weeks out in LA, in Hollywood at Paramount.
2 weeks for LA?
I believe so. That doesn't sound right either. So it may have been a matter of, I know it was 8 weeks total. So anyway, it feels more like we were just in LA for a few days. But there was obviously a lot of setup and getting all the crew ready and all that stuff and all the props and everything too. So the actual production was shorter. That was 8 solid weeks of production and all in the blue and,
the blue void. Yeah.
The blue void. I still dream in blue. Yeah.
I had a look at, because Patrick sent over an example of one of the shooting schedules for a day.
Okay.
Which I probably should have shown you before we started, but I'll send those over. You probably remember, that's probably some PTSD in there.
There's some that's been blocked out probably because of how aggressive it was.
Yeah, I mean, it was like you said, it was a full day, and did the shoot finish on time? How much time was there to like you said, we would do takes until we got it right, but with a tight schedule like that, you can't Stanley Kubrick this shit.
No. That was, and that's where credit again goes to these actors were tremendous. So to have people that knew their lines, knew their stuff. It was usually a matter of if something took longer, it wasn't that an actor needed so many more takes or something. It was just a matter of they just took a little while to do. Like I said, you do a reverse angle. It's not like you're just going to throw the camera on the other side. So that became more complex. But it was a very aggressive pace because it had to be. And I don't know. There were dozens and dozens of actors throughout this thing. And think about too, it wasn't just a matter uh, of having to capture that, to shoot that stuff. But it was also every one of these things that was makeup, that was wardrobe, it was hair. The wardrobe people, had to be the hardest working people. All of these folks just put in so much effort. And they worked harder than I did. And fortunately, these really good actors and a great crew and great technical folks and everything else made my job easy. It was by comparison. It's just some of the hardest working people. It's just amazing.
Well, a ship can't sail without the captain, sort of thing. But you mentioned wardrobe. So I did have a whole list about that. So period wardrobe, period costumes, and all that.
All made from scratch.
Oh, right. Oh, wow. Even Darren's trench coat.
There are, because of the, if I recall, like with that trench coat, what's funny is while looking at it, it's like the lapels that are out to here.
Yeah, you can go hang gliding with that thing.
Exactly. Dumbo ears. I just remember it would be like, oh, you guys okay, we're going to do that one tomorrow. Okay, so we'll have to make a suit for tomorrow for this guy, and we'll do this for that. I mean, it was just amazing to me how much was done, tailored completely, something that even if I wanted to have a suit now, it'd be 2 weeks before I see it. And they were doing that overnight.
Wow.
Yeah.
When I asked David Whalen what, if there was something on set he wished he'd snuck off with at the end, he said the boots, the big tall boots in the slappy around scene.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good choice. That's a good pick.
What would you pick? Like, okay, we haven't gotten to the props yet, but let's just say props or costume. Anything you would snuck off with if no one was looking?
I think a torch.
One of the torches.
Something I would have taken a torch. Yeah, I just think that would be a cool. I also think, it'd be kind of cool to have that and up on the wall or something. Oh, yeah. The nothing blue. I can tell you that.
None of the blue desks.
None of the blue desks. None of that. Yeah, I don't. That I didn't care for. Yeah, although it could be anything I want it to be. Yeah.
You haven't painted any rooms in your house blue. No. Stay away.
Nope.
All right, that's too bad. Speaking of props, a lot of the props, in-game inventory items, shit you pick up and stuff like that, if they are also shown in a cutscene, well, then the real-life prop has to match the 3D model of the prop in the game. What way around with... I'm thinking like specifically the Dahlia itself, the gemstone, little triangular thing there. I mean, that's a pretty pivotal prop to have, and it does show up in the FMVs, and you're also fucking around with it in-game as well. So what came first, the prop or the 3D render?
Ooh, I don't have the answer to that.
They just handed you a gem and went here.
No, I think, and this is another one where, wow, this is a good question that I'm not even sure who I would ask at this point, but I have a feeling that was probably something that was, like there was an organization in town that made props and so forth, and I think that was probably made to spec. So I'm going to guess that it was, here's what we need from a game standpoint, and really what so I need you to make one of these for real, is the way that probably was. Here's how many sides it needs to have for the gaming and all that sort of thing, and then made, the object being made.
Oh, sorry, I'm cutting you off to make a dumb
joke.
No,
not at all. Oh, no, please do.
Because the actual gem, and then and the final scene with Winslow there, and now dump a jar of marmalade onto it and play that in reverse.
You're right. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Oh, man.
Oh, well, talking of makeup and prosthetics, you guys did something to poor Mr. Whalen, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah. You're talking about the eye?
Yeah, the eye.
Yeah. That was one where, I mean, really kudos to Patty Bell, who was the makeup, she led all the makeup stuff. And special effects and prosthetics are not her specialty, and she did her homework, and she had multiple options together. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it was the first one that actually worked. But yeah, that was fairly involved. But there was a lot of question as to whether that was whether we were going to be able to pull that off or not. And of course, it was going to have all of the after effects and everything, or the things that were done in post, to make it even more dramatic. But yeah, that was I remember how nervous she was, because that was such a pivotal moment and so important. And Matt, it's really one of those ones where it is strange, because as a director, you get this too, is when everybody's looking to you going, okay, what are we going to do now? In this situation. And then all of a sudden I'm going, hey, okay, this is cool. I don't have to do much of anything except make sure that the camera's pointed in the right direction. In this particular case, it was all on her, and she really pulled it off. But I know she was nervous about that.
Oh, it came out looking really good, because there is a fairly close-up shot of David with just a prosthetic, no lightning bolts shooting from it or anything. Yeah. And I know one of the hard things to do with prosthetics is to get because if you're wearing a piece over his head, which he was, to get that paint to match the skin tone and all that stuff, that's really tough to do. So, and that came out working really well. I think most games would probably have just like blacked out his eye in post or something.
Sure.
You went the full marmalade.
Yeah, the full marmalade. I love that. Yeah. That was fun. That was something that everybody was anticipating. I'm trying to think, because I feel like that came fairly late. We shot everything out of worder, but I do feel like that came later in the schedule when we were producing that. That wasn't one of the earlier things.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I'm going to circle back to that. I'm just going to ask, were there any other like prosthetics or makeup stuff? I know Darren gets covered with a lot of shit, especially towards the end. Continuity of how much shit is he covered in?
He started out so pristine and young and innocent and pure, and we took him all the way to the end. Yeah.
But yeah, you're talking about continuity. Like he grows stubble, he becomes a little disheveled. Yeah. Eventually, he turns into Indiana Jones. And so you're saying you shot out of order, but certainly he must have like grown the stubble. You didn't paint that on him, did you?
I think it may have been augmented, but no, he was able to. Fortunately, he can grow a beard pretty quickly. So yeah, and I think about, it's not unusual to shoot a story out of order. It's just this had so much to it that when you were shooting out of order, it was a little more complex. But again, that was more for the actors, where it was, and again, with Darren's ability to be able to switch gears in terms of where am I as this character? What's my mindset? What in the world, am I this? Am I that? What's, and that was, fortunately, he stayed in that character in a given day. It wasn't a matter of, okay, now you're going to, you just shot that. Now we're going to send you back to makeup and you're going to do something. He didn't have to switch gears a lot during a day, but yeah.
No, he was talking about one of the first scenes he did with Alice was the kiss at the cabin, which is sort of
nice
reverse.
To meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Here you go. And then let's go back and do the train scenes where we actually meet each other for the first time. So yeah that must have been that must have been fun.
Yeah, and it's interesting too to just, all of us had to put ourselves in that same mindset of saying, okay, here's where they are at this point. Here's how this should look and feel and everything. But like I said before, when you're working with these actors, they really make the job easy because they did their homework. They knew where they needed to be from a character standpoint. I think the biggest challenge in many cases was, things that you take for granted in a real set. And it comes down to, okay, what is the surface I'm walking on? What does this feel like? What's the temperature? What's the, I should, you have to start painting the picture from a directing standpoint to say, I want you to think about, you can smell this, you can feel that, to try to put them into a scene that in their head that isn't blue.
Yeah, it must have been especially tricky with the catacombs, big lava room and stuff like that. Okay, you're now walking across a very precarious rock bridge.
That's a perfect example. Is that uneven rock? All of that type of an environment is a really good example of of the switch. Yeah, it's all gets switched up on them, but they have no reference to it. And again, the images that they're seeing in CGI, there might be a reference pic, something that was put together to kind of show the style of what space they're in. But yeah, so that was that's what being an actor is about too. Is you have to be imaginative, you have to be conceptual, and put yourself into a situation. So they all did a beautiful job of that.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some actors other than Darren. So we've David Wayland, whom I've spoke to, is my other favorite actor on the stage, particularly because he just seems to relish everything he does, even if it's just shooting some dude in the head 4 times. He just seems to really enjoy that. But what were some of the other actors, some of the bit players that you when you look back on their performances, you can go, holy shit, that person fucking delivered.
Well, there were, and I don't even know that it's like there's the names. Well, that's okay. Like, I think I get one of the challenges for me on the set, quite frankly, were moments like the Finster character, Mr. Finster, and he's so expressive and so, he was so over the top that it was hard for everybody not to like bust out laughing in the middle of a take. And he was so serious about doing it. He did it it's such an explosive, I just loved his facial expressions and everything. But that Finster was one of the ones that I just really got a kick out of. And Merlo was really cool from the standpoint of, is that Michael Burkowski? But anyway, he was able to, he had a wide range of his characters' delivery, that you got to see somebody really passionate, and then you'd see something that was, he was more laid back and sometimes a little frustrated. And in fact, that gets to, and I hope you don't mind me, I bounce all over the place, but that gets me to what we called neutral man. Yes. And that was the whole idea. And you have somebody like, actually, those two characters, Merlo and Finster, as you think about. So the Pearson character asks a question, so the game player is, well, I'm going to ask him about this. And now all of a sudden the guy has an explosive response. Well, of course, as you know, that when you're telling this story, because it's interactive and nonlinear and can go these different directions, you always have to land in something that is this little sway and this kind of neutral expression. It can't be excited, can't be anything. And no matter what, every scene has to begin and end in that position. So you can be in somebody's face, and then you have to go back to this.
Yeah. which is especially cool. There's one scene where Pearson bursts into Winslow's office and demands to know where they've put Penske, but you can also ask him these really nice questions about what happened to the German you arrested. And the intensity is, I mean, it's almost there in every scene, but it's depending on. Yeah.
And and what was really tough about that, and I don't know that we achieved it completely, but boy, we tried, is trying to not make that cheesy, because that's the part where you go, it's you don't ever want something to feel like it's being acted. But then when you do that, it kind of forces to go, oh, wait a minute. Okay. Yeah. Now he's just like this now. Okay. Now what's next? It just pops out and it just doesn't feel natural. It kind of reminds me of an old 8-track player or something, that you get to a point and it's going to stop and then it's going to pick up later on something else. But so there's dating myself. But anyway,
no, I'm a big vinyl nerd, so I know the whole. Now the site is finished. Now I got to get up and change the fucking thing.
By the way, on the whole neutral man thing, I think that was one time where shooting the stuff with Dennis Hopper, I think he and I had a bit of a rub, and I get along with pretty much everybody. But there was one where he just was really uncomfortable. And the rub was, I realized what it was at one point, is he kept feeling like I was limiting him and trying to tell him how to act, which it wasn't the case. But it was a matter of saying, I just don't think he understood the gameplay part of it. And this whole neutral man thing is just completely foreign to have anything that then has to go back to, that has to end in a certain way, or you can't move out of this type of frame or whatever, just because of the effects in the gameplay. Not that there was a ton of that with him, but it was still He just really wanted to have the freedom to do what he wanted to do, and you just don't have that necessarily with the game.
Which is understandable. Oh, I had 2 points. I got to get them out before my brain short circuits.
Please, no, go for it.
One part was, I think, probably credit to Patrick, is that most scenes you walk into where there are different dialogues choices that you can pick in any order, the sort of mood in all of those scenes is roughly the same.
Common.
So, yeah, it's
I agree with you there.
if Pearson walks in, he's frustrated. He's going to be frustrated throughout the entire dialogue.
Excellent point.
And the other one, most of the actors were, as far as I understand, have sort of a theater background, whereas Mr. Hopper obviously was in the movie, so he's used to his mood has to carry over between scenes. So I suspect it was easier to work with theater actors, and because now we're doing interactive blue screen stuff like that.
That's fair to say, and it's interesting too, because Hopper was, I don't know if he, I just remember, for instance, it's like with the straps on his arm when he's in the wheelchair, because he's in the sanitarium and everything, and it was like, no, crank him down. It was, he was very much into the almost method type of approach, but he wanted to feel it and all that sort of thing, and but in terms of that's, again, it made the actors were this, when it came to the live action stuff, all of the full motion video was so reliant upon the actors, and all of them were very flexible. They were very cooperative. And one of the things that I love, and this is where you talk about, for instance, David Whalen, for instance, and with Darren, for instance, is I thought the chemistry with the two of them, they both were very generous in the way they delivered and the way they worked together. No one needed to steal. And this is true across the board, is nobody was stealing a scene. Everybody was giving so that each could give more. And that might also be a little bit of that some of the stage work as well. I don't know. But that's something I appreciated a lot. There wasn't any, if there was tension, it was designed in. David, for instance, did a great job of introducing some tension in places. And that's what was great about those two characters anyway, is that just that weird relationship and how that evolved over time.
Yeah, my favorite story that he told was that he would, when they were in a scene together, he would always sort of lean into Darren's personal space, like put a hand on his shoulder when that wasn't like appropriate and stuff, just to throw him off a bit. I love that.
Yeah, he did a great job of being the character you love to hate. I mean, you just wanted to, there was just something, or maybe hate's a strong word, but it was just something that was always just a little bit, just a little uncomfortable, Jimbo.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, the best villains are the ones you can't take your eyes off, and the best villains are the ones that seem to really enjoy what they're doing. And
that's right.
My God, he enjoyed every moment of that.
Guilty as charged.
And he has good catchphrases too, and I think it's the smile. I think it's the smile, especially the one again, and this is an angle up shot, but that shot where he just empties a full clip into Von Hess, the Nazi, where it starts out being really aggressive, and then you just see the smile forming.
Oh yeah, he enjoyed that way too much. Yep. By the way, a funny, an interesting thing, at least from my standpoint, is so if you I think it's around that same time where Winslow character leaves the Nazi goon to deal with Pearson.
Yeah.
And that the goon was a guy named Hal Dahlia is the actor. And Hal is a martial arts expert. And that was another challenging scene. Fight scenes can be difficult anyway, just in normal cases. But again, because of the blue screen, it was a little bit more challenging. But and that's where Pearson ultimately stabs him in the chest and all that kind of stuff. Well, the funny thing is I was, this is another part of my life where I've been very involved in the motorcycle world, and I won't get too deep into this, but it's I was in a training certification program. And I look over, and here's the Nazi goon sitting next to me, and I'm going, "Wait a minute!
Hang on.
These two worlds collided here." And then, Hal
Didn't
and
we
I have,
stab you?
yeah, exactly. How did you? I thought you. Oh well. Anyway, but he and I remained friends and worked together for a long time in the motorcycle space. It's really kind of bizarre how that all works. But
That's so cool.
yeah, I didn't know him coming into that, and it's just a chance thing afterwards. But
that's so cool. I have to tell you a little secret. So that scene in the monastery where Winslow shows up, they gun down Von Hess, leaves them with a goon. Goon has to get tackled and all of this stuff. That was the one scene where I had to separate out the audio, and because the music audio was now very low, the sound effects were baked in. So I actually replaced the Foley of that.
Oh wow.
Tried to do my best, but there was one moment, and it was the stabbing, where I just couldn't resist, and I put in the goofy scream when he gets stabbed. And it just worked so.
Good for you.
Took it out again.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
And I was like, how much goo do we want? Because the original was just a loud thud, and the only sounds I could find had a little at the end.
I was going to say exactly that it had the that gelatinous sound. Yeah,
because the unfortunate thing, I don't know if that's an artifact of compression or something, but the FMVs that have music baked in, the music track is very loud. So what I had one of my friends separate out the dialogue and the sound or the music as best as he could.
I was actually wondering how you guys were going to do that. Okay. Yeah.
Were you involved in the sound mixing, editing?
No, just knowing though that you were going to have to separate some of that stuff out, because I know that happens in that. Yeah. So, I mean, you guys really put a lot into pulling that all together. I'm glad you did. Yeah.
Oh, most of it was easy because most of the background music in the game is running off of a different file. So when you pull the files out of the game, they have no background music. It's just the FMVs.
Oh, okay.
So that's easy. It's only the only one I think that gave me trouble was the monastery thing, and then the ending of it, where Alice morphs into Winslow and all that stuff. But we didn't have to replace any sound effects in that one. It was just the.
That's beautiful. By the way, here's a fun little thing too that I don't know if anybody's mentioned yet. But one of the things that I remember so well about production in Pittsburgh, again for a good solid 6 weeks or so, is that studio was shot at a place called J. Verno Studios, which was primarily a photo studio. Even though they had a soundstage, but it was really a photo studio. And we were working this big area that was big enough to put cars in, so they do photo shoots of cars and things like that. But the whole studio is situated right next to about 4 railroad tracks that were active. Yeah. So as we were shooting, the first scenes that we were shooting, and I think Darren mentioned this too, is we were shooting, I believe some of the first stuff was all the torch scenes, they didn't have dialogue. They were just, let's capture him doing these things.
Yeah.
And we became aware of these trains. And then, of course, that wasn't, again, a very aggressive shoot schedule, and everything's dialogue for the most part, and you'd get to the point, it's almost like, how if you set your alarm enough, you can wake up just before the alarm goes off?
Yes, I do that too.
We got to the same point where we go, there'd be a take going on, and you go, train's coming. I know. Sure enough, as it goes by, it's like, okay, got to take it again. It's like, or you're kind of going, come on, let's get through it. We only have one more line to get through.
Oh,
but
shit.
Yeah, it happened, I mean, multiple times every hour, and like way, way, way too frequently. But we got to the point where we just could tell when it was going to happen. So you'd say, all right, so we'll have to wait for the train. And then, okay, then we'll go right then. We've got to go afterwards and get some of that. But that was constant.
Good God. Okay, now that sounds absolutely anxiety-inducing. Several times an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. God. So you say you shot in a fairly spacious studio, which very obviously wasn't soundproofed. But the dialogue, the miking of the dialogue is really crisp. And again, I got to go back to like Phantasmagoria, which was also shot in a massive stage, and they had boom mics and all that. But you can just hear the reverberation, even though they're supposed to be in a little house, in a little room in a house. And there's like an echo, like a cathedral echo around them.
Now be a good little girl and go away.
But the dialogue in Black Dahlia is really crisp and really close. They weren't wearing lav mics; they were like boom mics and stuff.
Yes, yeah, it was boomed. I think entirely. Again, it's been a while, but there were also. I mean, these are really. By the way, Pittsburgh doesn't sound like it's a production capital, but you'd be amazed at the talent in terms of the crew people and the films that are shot in Pittsburgh and the experience that these guys have. And the audio guys as well. And it's a shame, I can't remember exactly who it was who was doing a lot of the audio, but they did a lot to break down that just open, hard walls type of environment. And it did pay off. I think the audio sounded pretty doggone good. And of course, you have the challenge too of there are all these different environments that you're supposed to capture. So if you're in a small office versus into something that's a bigger space that should have that reverberation, if you're in the hotel in Cleveland, that's one thing. And versus in one of the the small offices or something like that. But it worked pretty well.
I would say that, yeah. So what scenes in the script can you remember that you were most looking forward to shoot versus, well, you've already said the one you were dreading the most, but yeah, was there any scene like you were particularly looking for? Okay, this is going to be my favorite day on set.
Let's see. Like I said, I loved working. I just loved watching David Whalen, anything that he was in or that, and I did. It's not that I was anticipating that I was going to like it, but I loved the Finster stuff just because it was just really fun. By the way, another actor who I think, complete contrast to that, who is just a remarkable actor who I just even in looking at this again, and just go, man, Larry John Myers as Mulhaven did a beautiful, beautiful job. He's just such a natural actor and just did such a wonderful job with that. Let's see. There were things, I think the one I was looking forward to, oddly enough, and it's a short scene, but it's the head in the box, Louis the Fish. Because I was just looking forward to doing that and the reactions that come with it and all the stuff around that. And there are things where some of the scenes that I think a lot of it was just enjoyment of the scenes and watching them unfold and seeing the actors really bring it together. But I love stuff that was also technical. So it was things like the opening the window, falling through the floor. It was anything that was a challenge. And think about it, even in that scene where the head is delivered and then the kid goes down the stairs, think about that shot where it reveals the kid's, later he's got his 5 cents and he's got his nickel and he's going down the stairs. At that point, we actually had to lift Darren up onto a box to get the height difference so that we could do stairs because we were just going down to the level of the studio floor. Just little stuff that was harder to work through. The stuff that to me was also a challenge, and I don't think I loved doing the dream sequences. The morphing stuff to me was just a challenge. That was just one of the things that was tough from my standpoint. But again, the pressure was more on the actors than it was on me. But those were the ones that I had the hardest time getting my head around.
Your head around.
Yeah, there you go. Raven Room. Room was one with the that was the Raven Room, right? With the dumbwaiter, with the balancing thing. That was a fun one. I was looking. It was a love-hate thing because it was such a pain in the ass, but at the same time, it was a really cool thing to figure out. But and you're working from two sides of a room and all that stuff. Yeah.
Those glasses had to have been glued to the tray. They weren't. Darren actually had to.
That's right. Yeah. Some of that stuff. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But it was just so delicate. And then when you do need to get it to go, but I just remember that being something that was really interesting to work through. That
Like
had
one
some
of-
complexities to it.
Oh yeah, this is like, oh yeah, that take didn't go so well. Can we have 40 new glasses, please?
Yeah, exactly.
Just bowling pin the shit up.
Yep. Yeah, no question about it.
Oh, and I can't remember who said it. There was just a fun. The head in the box does not get mentioned enough. I can't remember who said it. Might have been me actually. But I was playing the game, and someone just exclaimed, "Oh my fuck! He got Gwyneth Paltrow."
That's good. Oh man.
So yeah, gone through the content.
I got one more for you, and this is one that probably not everybody saw. And again, I didn't play the game, so I never did get to see how this was. But there were the Easter eggs that were always fun to do. Okay,
Damn.
so the Easter eggs were really a hoot. But there is one, and this is just I'm just awkward anyway. So there is a scene where one of the bathing beauties, if you did a certain thing, she'll take her top off.
Yes,
right. She'll go topless, and for me, from a directing standpoint, it was so awkward to, it became okay, now, good. And lay there. Okay. Now take your top off. Okay. All right. Good. Now lay that. Yeah. And are we good? Are we good? Do we need to do another? Oh, we do need to do another. Okay. So it was so strange for me to do that, but yeah, she didn't. Yeah. Anyway, she knew what she was doing coming on, but yeah.
Well, that one is weird because I found the Easter egg because I went through the files, and someone on YouTube uploaded like a cavalcade of all the Easter eggs, and that one is the last one. But I don't recall anyone ever telling me how to actually trigger it in game. I don't think anyone's actually found it. And also, you wouldn't have gotten away with the game rating if it had been found.
That may be why. Maybe that is why that just never quite materialized. That's interesting.
So the takeaway here is you did not like design the Easter eggs, so to speak. Someone went up and said, "This girl has got to take her kid off."
Yeah. Yeah, and they cast for that and everything with someone who was going to be comfortable doing that. More comfortable. She was more comfortable than I was asking her to do it. So yeah.
I guess.
Especially with a bunch of people around, and it's like, okay, how are you going to direct this? Okay.
I'll just turn around and you let me know when you're done.
We're going to make this all business. Yeah. Okay. So that, and I'll take your top off. Okay. Good. All right. Great. Nice job. Yeah.
Did you have any like input on, let's say, the Easter eggs where Pearson does prank calls? Because were they like improvised? Did you have any like try this? That's
a good question, because there was some, that was kind of everybody throwing some stuff out. I think that was one time where Darren had a chance to do a little bit of improv as well, which he ate that stuff up. I mean, I thought that was great. The prank calls is just so funny. And I don't know.
Jim Pearson.
And yeah, it was just, and that honestly, the spirit of that kind of gives you an idea. That's really what the whole production was like. And this was something that, and this may be another reason I was pulled in, is even if something's very complex and there's a lot of stress, I love having a fun set. I love having interaction. And we were working with people that we trusted. All of these, it was like a reunion for me going into such a large production. It's like, oh my gosh, I haven't worked with, there were people I worked with regularly, and then I'm seeing other crew people that I hadn't worked with in a good bit of time. And then you're seeing actors coming in that you go, oh my gosh, oh yeah. And I mean, I knew most of them. And then everybody from Take Two was really a lot of fun too. And so even amidst all of this stuff, we just had a good time. And that's the way it should be. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons everybody has really good memories of this from being part of it. Is it was a bitch from a work standpoint, but man, was it a fun time together. I mean, there was just somehow as stressed out as everybody would get, we all still find ways to laugh and commiserate or whatever it was. But it was really a fun experience.
Every time the train goes by, just
every
shit,
time.
I'm
Yeah.
so
Well,
glad
that became a laughing point. I mean, it was just one of those, it's that or you cry, right? So
yeah, exactly. Well, I actually did have a question earlier about everyone, Darren and David both said that it was a very relaxed, very fun shoot, and they were given opportunities to flex their muscles and all of that sort of stuff. But how do you keep a calm head walking in, knowing you've got an 8-hour day and you have to get home and block all this shit out? And trains are going by every fucking hour. And how do you keep a calm head day to day?
I think it just comes with the job. It's like if you're going to allow all of that to get to you, I think it's just the realization to say that's not an option. This is going to sound so cheesy, but it's not an option if you have to get through this. So to self-destruct or to just be pissed off or whatever, it's just a matter of, there were some days that were really difficult. And I think there was one time, and I feel like, I should apologize to Shelley and everybody, where there was one day where I came in and I don't think I had done the drawings the night before or something like that. And I threw off the schedule for a bit. We made it through and it was all fine, but it was one where I had just been really frustrated and I was kind of burned out or something. It was the only time that I can think of where I let that get to me. And Shelley was amazing in terms of, one, reminding me she had to manage everything, and including anybody who had any issues and all that kind of stuff. And it was quickly right back in it again. And then I just remembered how cool this was to be on this thing. And again, if anybody had been just a dick on the thing, it would have been a real drag, but we were all really enjoying this. And that makes difficult things easier.
Yeah.
It's a good work environment.
I mean, it also sounds like it helps that you were very active in the Pittsburgh scene, and the people who were brought on the crew, you knew them from past experiences. So it wasn't like Ridley Scott on Blade Runner coming into a completely foreign crew that hates his guts.
Yeah. And I had been on enough, and this is the thing too, was if it was acting or doing voice work or whatever it was, you always managed to, there was always that director or the producer who was just an egomaniac and an ass and everything else. And all it did was brought out the worst in everybody, made everybody miserable, made him feel good, him or her. And, but that was about it. And it was, I think the other way to answer what you asked is also just knowing you're not in this alone. I was surrounded by people who all had responsibility and accountability, in their own spaces and everything else. And everybody had everybody's back, so that worked very, very, very well. And I really have great respect for all of them. It can be. Yeah, it can be for sure.
I mean, I've heard some horror stories on, especially FMV games tend to have, like you say, very tight shooting schedules. So people get stressed out, and some of them turn out great, and some of them have like real camaraderie, mainly because the people making the game are also the ones making the actual FMV scenes. I was talking about Pandora Directive, the Tex Murphy series.
Yeah.
The guy who's the lead designer in the game is also playing the main protagonist, and they hire people from the office to come in and do bit parts and stuff like that. So they have a good time. But some of those like semi-large scale FMV productions, especially some of the Sega CD ones, I would imagine, it's just like, let's get through this. God damn it.
Yeah, I actually found the only times that were stressful and just not comfortable, and I kind of knew it going in, strangely enough, is I wasn't really looking forward to the West Coast stuff. And it was a different crew, and they were professional and all that kind of thing. It wasn't too much, but it didn't have the same vibe to it, and it's just a different feel. And it was, like I said, it was all good and everything else, but that was a more stressful shoot, and I was anxious to be done with that and head back. Conversely, and I've always been such a huge Terry Garr fan, I was just actually so much looking forward to working with her and hoping that she was, the type of personality that I hoped she would be. And she was such a delight to work with. So that was a wonderful thing. It was a little tricky because we learned We learned about her. I can't remember if she had MS or what it was, but she was really struggling at that point with the ability to walk and use her right arm, I think. And we weren't aware of that when she was coming in. So we had to take all of these scenes where we had her walking into the scene and moving over to here and doing all that, and had to kind of on the fly reconfigure everything so that she'd be seated as Madame Cassandra. And it all worked out fine. But that's one of those things you think, well, again, if you're shooting a film or you're shooting something else that's just live action, it's not that big of a deal. Okay, we'll do it. We'll move all the stuff and do it on the couch. And but in the case of this, because of the gameplay, because of the CGI set and all that sort of thing, it all had to be completely reconfigured so that she could do that. And fortunately, we were able to do that pretty quickly. But that's really the only hiccup in terms of something that had to change in midstream.
Yeah, but also I recall Darren saying that she was actually a recast, like you'd already shot with a different actress, and then Terry Garr came in and you had to reshoot those scenes.
Wow, that's one I'll have to jog the memory a little more, because I don't remember shooting that with someone else, but maybe I blocked that out of my head. I know that there was consideration of a different actress for that role. Wow, that's a good one. I'll have to actually ask Darren or a couple of the other folks, because I can't remember, to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah, he just said he'd shot some scenes with Madame Cassandra, and then Terry Garr was cast ostensibly because, she was a draw name.
Oh, sure.
And then they, had to reshoot the scene. So not only did they have to reshoot the scenes, I would imagine all the blocking, with the couch seating, the previous scenes would have been walking around and talking, and now they're all sitting down stuff.
That's so funny that I don't remember that specifically. And it may just, like I said, it may be a matter of saying I had to just move on from that. And maybe I just kind of blocked that out. Now I'm curious. All right. It's been a minute. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we'll come back to that. No, that's it. Oh, I will say that Madame Cassandra, I don't know if that was in the original script, but it did give rise to one of those like little subtle humorous bits recurring bits that I find funny. Is every time you go to Cassandra's place, her handmaiden or whatever just goes, fuck it.
Yeah. Oh, that's in those little bits of humor. I loved her character, and she was almost unnecessary, but so valuable to have her do that handoff every time. And it's like, really.
Yeah, she's just fed up with this shit, and it's so good. Also because it kind of takes the edge off this whole. Okay, we're going into the supernatural now. We've got psychics. Pearson starts off as a skeptic, so having that little deflating the balloon thing with Madame Cassandra. This is so dry delivery.
Ta-da!
Yeah. She almost rolls her eyes when she walks up. It's so
exactly. Good. Yeah, I love it.
Right. So how much time did the actors have for rehearsals before shooting? Would imagine not a lot.
More blocking than anything else. So it was a matter of they might be able to run a little bit as we were blocking the scene, just to get a sense as to how it was going to play out. But not much at all, because it was. I mean, I hate to say it, but it was almost like. Boy, when you compare it to a lot of other things where you're shooting a scene or two a day, and this was just cranking through. If you saw it'd be interesting to see the shoot list again, the schedule. But it was truly, it almost, I hate to say it, but it was a bit factory-like, but we made sure that we had what we needed, but it needed to have that kind of momentum constantly.
Yeah.
And so what you did have, though, is while we were doing one thing in another part of the studio, separated, is you had actors who were, if they had the opportunity, of course, if Darren was part of all of them, they didn't necessarily get their time working with him to do a lot of rehearsing, I'm sure. But I think they ran lines and had a chance to kind of feel some stuff out before they were actually on set. And then, like I said, we would run through it once, maybe twice, if it wasn't quite nailed yet. And but a lot of that was blocking.
Okay.
Because
that's impressive, because the chemistry between Pearson and Winslow is like you can't coach that. as they say. It's that's natural. So
yeah, I would agree. And I don't know if those guys may have carved out some time that I wasn't aware of outside of the studio. I just don't know when the hell they would have done it. But they may have.
Right.
That's interesting. But sure, they came in and hit it as if they had been working through it for quite a bit. I mean, that was the thing to me that really worked well is, for the most part, I think almost everybody just hit on all cylinders, and they played off of the characters very well. Even those little bit characters like you were talking about. I love, the two guys it was Harry O'Toole and I can't remember the two guys in the post office. It's the guy in, when trying to get information about Louis, the guy who's a little slow, and that was a cool character, and just all of these little things. But everybody it was like, okay, yeah, I'm playing off this character, and it just works, and it was all natural. I never felt like a force fit with any of it, or felt unnatural. It just kind of slid right in. So I thought that was great.
It just reminded me, one of my favorite bit characters, who no one has brought up yet, is the bartender in the bar in Elizabeth Short's. Such a dick. Just well, my memory's a little fuzzy.
Exactly.
Pierce is just like, well, your fuzzy memory is going to make me broke.
Yeah, it's funny. It was when watching what you put together, I went, oh my gosh, I forgot all about that and that character. And he really did a great job. He definitely pulled off being a dick really well.
The tragic part is that his dialogue is one of the most expensive ones, because what you're trying to do is get Elizabeth's room number out of him. But there are many ways you can do that. You can either bribe him, or you can antagonize him, or you can do some. So I had to cut out a lot of this dude's stuff.
I was wondering, yeah.
Unfortunately, because otherwise it would have just been a bit weird.
It's relentless, yeah.
Yeah. And then he would have given the room number several times and all this stuff. So unfortunately, I had to cut out a lot of that dude. That was a waste.
Yeah, he was good. He was very good. I'll tell you what was funny too for me after all this time is, and especially how the volume of scenes that we did when I was watching through the 4 hours worth, how many times I found myself lipping the response that was coming, that still after all this time, I knew what the lines were in certain scenes. It just was really
like buried memory.
Yeah, exactly. It's just really, really odd stuff I have. It's like, wow, that came from way back. Yeah. But that just goes to show that there was and Patrick did such a wonderful job of writing so much of this. And like you say, some of the key little lines, some of the things that are just very quirky, and Patrick's such a cool guy to begin with. And his personality, I think, comes through in his writing. And so anyway, that's why I say this was really just such a fun thing to work on.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the reasons why I want to bring back Black Dahlia in such a big way, or at least as big as I can do it, is because it could have very easily gone, X-Files 1940, or it could very easily have gone like taking itself so super serious and all that. But it
wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked anywhere near well.
It does take itself serious in all the right ways, and it has a sense of humor about it at the end. I suppose the only part where you can say it completely loses its sense of humor is the ending, where the best ending you can get is to get dragged off to the fucking electric chair. That's the good ending. The bad ending is becoming Hitler.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And Patrick said, well, that's my Chinatown ending. That there was no other way. We're gonna do a downer ending. I'm like, I just went through 8 fucking CDs of this shit, and you're gonna hold me up to the
you think about the investment that somebody is making. That's interesting. I'll have to ask you. I'd love to see Patrick's interview. I don't know if you have all these posted or not.
I do. They're unlisted at the moment. Yeah, but I'm gonna unleash a deluge of Black Dahlia when I'm done with all this. But yeah,
awesome.
I'll send you.
Hopefully, there's some folks who would be interested in seeing it. By the way, so I don't know if you'd seen. So I still have this. Is the complete box, and still I had another one that's open and everything, but this is still in the wrapper, and all the stuff that comes with it, and posters and a patch disc for all those little hitches and everything. But that's kind of fun.
Oh, that's so cool. I've got a couple of boxed versions of it, but the T-shirt as well. Yeah. Patrick had like a big like you see in movie theaters, like one of those big signs or whatever. Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah. But the box, damn, that outer card. Oh, the outer cardboard box over the game box. I don't think that must have been a Take-Two exclusive thing. Because
did you guys get did you get the same type of packaging and everything over there? How did this even? It's really wild to me that this has a following, or that there are even that there's anybody interested in this stuff. And I don't know if it was ever distributed over there, or whether you guys found it somewhere.
I'm going to show you.
Okay. I'll be right here.
So this is the European box.
Okay.
It has a little sticker here that says, for distribution in Scandinavia only.
Oh, wow.
No one knows why. And and unlike the American box, which I have over there, it's in really rough condition. We don't have the embossed letters on the front. And also it's a slipcover thing. So it comes out like that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which was the style at the time, so they say, in Europe. So it's slightly smaller than the American box. And here's the fucked up thing, right? So you guys got this amazing fold-out thing here with all the discs in it, and it's so beautiful. Do you know
it's nicely done.
Oh yeah, do you know what the Europeans got?
Mm-mm.
All the CDs and transparent little plastic folders. Fuck.
Wow. Nice.
And they're not even pretty. Like all of them just have, I think it's Dennis Hopper's face on the front, and they're black and white.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And yours are like these beautifully engraved CDs. Yeah. So we got screwed a bit, but yes, it did have a European release. It wasn't dubbed or anything. All the dialogue is the same and stuff. We don't really dub stuff in Europe. It's time. Yeah, the Germans and the Spanish people dub their games. I don't know if Black Dahlia got a dub. That would actually be kind of interesting to look up.
That's a good question. Yeah. Yeah, find out who was the voice of Jim Pearson in Spanish.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So were you involved in, we're near at the end. Were you involved in the editing once the shoot was complete? Did you stitch the thing together?
No, and that's where that was an unusual thing for me, because again, with my production background, I always spent a lot of time in post. And in this particular case, that was all Take-Two. So it was really providing them with the product that they could work with to do their job. And frankly, I think that just would have been so. For instance, it has. I think it was February of '98 when that was released, and I was trying to go back before we talked to figure out when did we actually do production, because it took them a long time to pull all the rest of it together. That it just would have been really time intensive. And I think they were probably good, because that was the beauty of us working together in the production part of it. And they knew what they needed to do. And we had all, I don't know that I would have contributed a whole lot more to it. It would have been great to be a part of it, but they did a tremendous job.
Yeah. Absolutely. And editing is one of the main things that, sell a good scene. So it's actually kind of surprising that you weren't part of the edit, because the editing is really, really good too. A lot of FMVs have this thing that's really obnoxious. Black Dahlia has a little bit of it, but not terribly much. It's only when you run out of conversation options. This thing where they're looking straight at the camera and talking to the player. Like, that takes me out of it. And
absolutely. Yeah.
And Black Dahlia rarely has any of that. There's one or two. And again, it's usually when you run out of stuff to talk to, the character just tells you to fuck off, like straight to your face.
That's where at least what I liked was we tried to handle a number of things with a voiceover with kind of introspect. Oh, maybe this will do, this will help me out, or that, you get the little things that kind of nudge the player somewhere. without having to speak directly to the camera. Yeah, that really crossing that line. There are times that works, and I think we had Darren do that once to camera, but it was a little shtick thing. I can't remember where that was, but I do remember him.
There's an Easter egg where you're rifling through. So, if you pick the wrong folder about like 14 times or so, he looks at the camera and goes, "Do you even know what you're doing?"
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the kind of place you can get away with it. But, when it's purely, okay, yeah, I'm talking to you now as the player. Mm. Yeah. As opposed to in the game. So, or in the story. That's cool. Yeah. That was fun.
Oh, a little one that just came to mind is all of those transitions when you go from place to place. It plays the sort of sepia-toned period archival footage thing. Mm-hmm. Did you pick those out, or is that something?
I did not. That was. It's terrible that I'm forgetting his name. The opening sequence and those transition pieces were handled by someone else.
Henry Barrasso and he was the VFX artist, and I think he's editor. Or I have the manual right here. I could look it up, but I'm not going to. Should I? Okay, I'll do it.
No, let's see. I can tell you. Lance Laspina did the opening sequence. Yeah,
he beat me to it.
Yeah, I knew it was an L, and but it just But I didn't work with him on that. He did all of that stuff, and so that would be the transition sequences as well.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, last fluff question.
Okay.
When you look at the finished product and you look at all the scenes, are there any scenes where you go, I'd do that differently. I'd go back and do that differently, or some scene you wanted to like pick up maybe a few extra takes or something?
I think in retrospect, I would have done green screen.
Well, yeah, but blue screen was the style of the time, as they say.
Yeah, blue just seems so passé at this point. No, are there scenes? Oh boy, there were scenes that and this goes again to just some of the people I was working with and the enjoyment of it is there are scenes that I would actually just like to go back and do again just to enjoy them again. That sounds really
I get it.
Easy, yeah. But oddly enough, I mean, like one of the actors that I absolutely love, and he plays such a minor role in this, is the porter, and working with. Oh my gosh! Now I'm going to go blank there. No, that's Marty Schiff, and Marty. I've worked with him through the years, and he just always brings some little thing. And that's you asked me before about like some of the bit parts and things like that. There are characters that are only on for a short time, and yet they bring something so special to it. There is the woman. Let's see, what did Dixie Timmons play? Oh, Mrs. Underhill. There's just something kind of fun about what she brings to it. And some of these, by the way, there are like, I think it's in McGinty's, the bartender with the deep, that Bob Tracy is someone who my dad worked with. And I remember from when I was a kid, when that guy was on KDKA radio with my dad. And it was fun and a little surreal sometimes to be working with people that I kind of grew up with and that were in my dad's set. Some of those more, the older actors that are now like, I guess I'm their age now, but it was just really cool. And I just thought he was such a cool character in playing the bartender in that case. Yeah. And it was just such a small thing, but I loved the character.
Oh, he's beautiful. It's like, I don't know anything. You fuck off and take your fellow with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, what was it? Mrs. Underhill is the one, is the landlady where Elizabeth Short used to stay. And she gave us such a hell of a time when I was editing the 4-hour movie because I split the render into parts. Obviously, you're not going to render a full 4 hours. So I split it into parts. And one of the parts ended with her opening the door and going, so this is her room. And she says it in a very sort of sing-songy voice. And I had to listen to that so many times because the render kept fucking up. So it became like a running joke. That's why at the end credits, if you stick around for the end credits of that 4-hour cut together, the right after the very end, there's a little black silence, and then it scrolls up. So this is her room.
That's great. That's great.
Listen to it so many times.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So for some reason, she became a meme just from the way she said
that's
that.
Perfect. Yep. And it just figures if it's going to re-render and it's going to do that, it's going to do something that's really sing-songy or something that's just going to become an earworm. Yeah.
Oh, you know what it was? We used her as test footage for upscaling. That scene of her opening. So every time my friend Andrew did a test render of the upscaling, we had to listen to her open the door.
Okay.
Every single time. Oh, it drove us mad. But yeah, so the upscaling came out as well as you can with stuff that's in the hands of amateurs or general public kind of stuff. It's not perfect. Also, it had potato quality to work with. Unfortunately, I would love to see like the original DV tapes or something. But was it shot on video? It was shot on video, wasn't it?
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that just even for any time you're pulling all of that stuff together and compositing, you don't have to worry about weave or anything like that. Video is just so much easier to work with for all the keying. Plus, it's immediate.
Yeah, but I would imagine all that shit is either locked away somewhere in a vault or just went the way of the dodo.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what that would have been shot on. Probably like Beta SP or something. Yeah, that's interesting.
old tech. Just
and that was when I watched it. I was like, oh man, I'd love to see the clean footage, and I'd love to see the fine. Actually, the shoot stuff is one thing, but that's all going to be against blue. But to know what it wound up on, which I never did see, and how crisp in its best form before it wound up. Yeah. Unfortunately, I never got to see that.
I would imagine they rendered the final videos out in 640 by 480 because again, the bigger the resolution, the longer it takes to render.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I mean, you could go back and recompose it. It's that's if anyone keeps stuff around from those days. I mean, I was talking to the guys who did the Seventh Guest and the 11th Hour, two of the most like famous CD-ROM games of all time, the ones that brought FMV into and I was asking, do any of you guys have the footage lying around that we could recompose it? And they're like, no, all that shit burned when the company went under. Sorry.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that happens. I just had a random thought here too, which hopefully I'm not throwing us off in terms of where you want to go.
I love random.
You were asking about, is there anything that I would want to redo? And I think, and I also just reminded me of, and it's little stuff. I get hung up on door opens and closes for this gameplay, and you'll notice that every one of them, it's never a matter of I'm going to close the door with my hand like that. I'm going to give it a little flick and let it, because that way you don't have to track in the CGI. Mm-hmm. So there were a few places where the ins and outs through the doors were a little awkward that I thought, if we had time, that would have been nice to get that down a little bit better. But that's super minor. But that's one of the things that to me, it says, that just feels a little, that's where I start to see the artificialness come into it a little bit. But
the CG
amazingly it works as well as it did.
Yeah, there's only one that springs to mind actually, and that's when Marilu and Pearson walk into the back room at the Raven room, because he opens the door very slowly, and he has to shut it very quietly and stuff like that. But other than that,
everything else is and
well, that's it. That's all I got.
Okay.
Sorry.
Not at all. This is really, it's been fun. It's really neat to revisit this. And I'm going to check real quick just to see if there was anything.
I'm going to check my list as well.
Because we covered a lot of ground. So that was cool. And hopefully you got something out of this that has some value anyway.
No, we went through all of my shit.
Same here. Yeah, it's funny because this is the way I love a conversation is we can meander, but we cover all the ground we need to cover. So, hey, I can't tell you enough. One, I appreciate so much what it is that you're doing to, first of all, just the passion you have for games and everything in general, but the amount, I know how much, I can only imagine actually how much work you have into a lot of this stuff. It's really great to revisit this. So thank you for that, because it's like I just reached out to Darren today and said, you and I have to grab coffee because we just have a lot to catch up on.
Oh.
And this has just gotten so many things going in my head. It's just really cool. It's been fun to do this. So thank you.
No, thank you very, very much. I would love to do something like a director's commentary thing. I know it's a 4-hour thing. We could split it into hours and stuff. But this was actually Darren's idea. I wouldn't be presumptuous enough to ask, but he was actually asking, can we do like a commentary or something?
Yeah, do a viewing of it it would be so cool to be able to do that, pulling people together to watch it. I would do that in a heartbeat. Yeah, that'd be great.
DVD. Like I said, I used to watch DVD commentaries all the time. So
it's old school. Maybe we do pop-up.
Oh shit! Oh no! Hell yeah! I've actually one of the members of my little YouTube community on Discord, he's been streaming Black Dahlia for the first time, and this was sort of out of the blue. Like I said, I'm working on this Black Dahlia stuff, and he goes in and goes, "Oh, I've been streaming that game for the first time. Me and my friends, we're streaming it right now." And one thing led to another. I said, "Okay, now we've got this 4-hour cut together." And he said, "Wouldn't it be cool if we did like a Mystery Science Theater thing on it?"
Oh yeah.
It's like, because you can riff on a good movie, you can also riff on terrible movies.
Oh,
but you can riff on good movies.
Oh, that would be a hoot on this. To tell you the truth, yeah, I can just see all the little silhouette in the foreground, and but yeah, no, this has enough in it that you could definitely provide that little snarky commentaries. That's funny.
In a lovely, love-spirited kind of way. So yeah,
absolutely.
We're absolutely going to do it. So we can have like a DVD commentary that's all like reminiscing and heartwarming. Kind of the Mystery Science Theater. On the other hand, that would be fun. All right,
definitely. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. Oh yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you for your time. This is and all of this came out of me. Okay, I'm going to do a video on Black Dahlia. It's been years since I've played it. I'm going to bring it back. Played the game. I was like, I don't understand the story. I should reach out to the writer. Okay, so someone on Blue Sky tracked him down, and I was like, hey, are you the Patrick Freeman? Who? Yeah, I am. But you should also talk to.
That's great.
And all of a sudden, the snowball just rolled. And
That's awesome.
So glad I got to do this. This is the most expansive thing I've ever done, and it couldn't have happened to a better game. I was actually in Portland earlier this year, Portland Retro Game Expo, and they had an FMV museum of different FMV games. Everything from Phantasmagoria to Ripper to Seventh Guest and all that. But curiously absent was Black Dahlia.
Interesting.
So
that's wild. It's. I guess it was weird timing, and I think about this too. It's like, wow, I really feel like coming out of Dahlia, it's like, all right, now what's the next one we're going to do? Because but it was right at the end of all of that.
Yep.
Had that been earlier, a little different, but it was like, wow, it's a shame. This is all shifting. And I knew we were in that window, but it was cool. So cool to have been able to be a part of that before it all went away.
Yeah. You got one of the last good ones out of the way before everything went 3D. Or actually, everything was 3D at that time.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And also, I think one of the things that sunk Dahlia is that it required Windows 95 to run. And right around that time, getting all the correct drivers and stuff to work with it was a bit of a pain in the ass, but not even remotely as much of a pain in the ass as it is to emulate today. I
was wondering about that. I didn't want to open that can of worms, but that may be something I talk to you about even over email or something, is just how in the world everybody's playing that now. I was wondering if it had to be emulators of some sort, but it's still got to be difficult.
It is tremendous. I mean, most stuff you can, if it runs on like DOS from, let's say, like 1990 to 1995, everything you can emulate that stuff. There are very brilliant emulators out there that can do that. But there's this dark ages period from when Windows 95 was introduced up until like 2005 or something. That's almost impossible to emulate. And unfortunately, Black Dahlia is in the dark ages.
Yep. That's
So,
probably impacting a lot of things. Yeah.
Which is probably why people don't remember it as much. And which is actually why I put together the 4-hour movie, because there is no way I could cover the entire game in any amount of detail in a 30-minute video. And also, no one's going to go out and play it because it's such a bitch to get running.
Too hard. Yeah.
Too hard. So I'm just going to put together the movie. So you can watch the movie if you don't want to go through all that shit.
I'm so glad you did. Glad you did.
I'm very happy that you wanted to be part of this. And I'm very happy that you like what I've done with your vision, even though I replaced the sound effect. I'll send you the goofy scream cut.
Please do.
And yeah, that's it. I'm going to click stop recording now. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Take care.
We could spend a few hours torturing you just for fun. But I'm afraid I really don't have time for that now. The only thing to do is to kill you. It's a shame, really. Always did like you, Jimbo.
I can see you're all busted up.
Goodbye, old sport. Tetain.